Hey everyone, Survey Future here, and today we're going to take a look at a pedal thing, which also can be used with synthesizers and modular, so it's a little bit of a weird crossover place we're at today. As you can see, this is my yet to be completed pedal board setup, which looks maybe a little bit overwhelming, but we can actually ignore most of it for this video. I just wanted to show it in full before we dive into kind of the meat of this video, which is this BoredBrain Patchulator guitar pedal patchboard contraption. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, the idea here is that you can set up your patchboard in a fixed way and use these little cables to move around the order of the pedals. Now in my specific setup I am using the tri-parallel mixer by Electro Harmonics to have two signals combined back into one signal, which goes to the noise gate, to the iPad, into the camera, right there. So let me get you a little bit closer to the patch bay and let's talk a little bit about how this thing works and how you can use it. So here we are up close and personal with the Patchulator by BoredBrain. Now, often when you see patchbay-like devices, people will say, well, that looks very complicated and intimidating, especially with this entire wire mess going on. That definitely doesn't help in telling the story, but I will try to make it as clear as possible. It's actually very simple. What you have here are inputs and outputs, which you can connect together with little jack cables, which are included, which is nice. So the basic idea is that you input the signal at one of these input points, which has an input arrow, and the output signal goes from the other arrow. You can see this as a send, and this is a return. Now the setup I have going on here is a little bit messy, but I can tell you that one of the sends is going into the just off-screen pitchfork, and in the pitchfork the signal is split between the octave up and the dry signal. And the dry signal ends up right here. So let's say we want to take the dry signal and we want to output it. So my output is here at the noise gate, which is just in screen. Nice. So I want to connect the send from this dry signal to the return of the noise gate. But this should, in theory, there we go. The noise gate was too high. And if I disconnect this, we don't get anything but ground hum. And that's the entire basic premise here. So you have any pedals, like a distortion pedal or anything, they will have an input and an output. So all the inputs are connected to these jacks, and all the outputs are connected to this jack. So this specific cable set is for the Carcosa fuzz. So what I can do now is I can say I want to take the input here, I want to disconnect it, I want to put it into the Carcosa, take it out of the Carcosa, which is fairly noisy for some reason, but there we go. This entire setup needs a lot of cleaning up because they are using very subpar cables and it's all a little bit messy. But that's the general idea here. You can take any output and link it to any input, and I don't have to move the pedals around. So if, for instance, I want to route my bass to my plasma coil, the plasma coil is set up with a blue and a orange cable, which happens to be right here. The orange is the input, which does match. So we're going to take the base, plug it into the plasma coil, out of the plasma coil into the noise killer, and there we go. So the entire idea with this setup is that you can just patch around without having to move your pedals around, which is a very nice concept. Now, of course, there are more options with doing this. There's like switchboards, and there's very expensive systems which can actually do everything this does, but also save it in presets and stuff. The lovely thing here is the patchulator is pretty affordable, and it's very hands-on, so it's actually kind of fun to play around with patching the cables and moving things around. Now, on stage, probably not the best idea to mess around with patching cables and stuff. You would at least need something to kill any noise, because if, as you've noticed, if you unplug things, you can create very weird noise spikes, which is suboptimal. But still, it's a lot of fun to play around with. Let's see if we can do some other examples. So let's say we want to use the octaver here. So, like I said, I had another pair going into the patchulators right here. This is the main output of the pitchfork, so this is the pitch signal. So I can actually take the pitch signal, send that into the carcosa, out of the carcosa, into the trimixer. Now what I want to do here is I want to take this signal, which is the main signal. We'll put this into the, yeah, that's correct. We're going into the plasma coil, out of the plasma coil, back into the trimixer. So this is going to the trimixer. And now we need to connect the trimixer, which is here, to the output. And we should get a pitch stop signal, and if I activate both channels, so it definitely takes a second to wrap your head around the entire concept of a patch bay, of course. So that's nothing new, but it's not really all that hard once you get into the habit of following the things. And of course, when you set up yourself, you can apply your own logic to the entire thing, which always helps quite a lot. This unit is entirely passive, which is nice, so you don't need a power supply for it. The form factor I think is pretty cool. Downside being is that it's pretty big, so I'm actually planning to build it underneath my pedal board to just have like this circle exposed and not have all this cable mess going around. That's definitely a downside of making it like an octagon. Probably easier to just have like a bar shape and patch up and down. At the same time, this is very visible, so it's very fun to look at, and it's very easy to access everything. Now, one thing I actually haven't tried yet, which is a kind of a bad idea, but we're going to try it anyways, because why not? Now, in an ideal world, you will use proper Y cables for this. So if you have a eurorack and you have patch cables, you will have a proper Y cable. I'm a cheapskate. So we are going to do this the don't try this at home way. I'm unsure why we're getting so much hum, but there we go. Let's try one of these little boys. This is a headphone splitter, which is stereo. This entire unit is mono. So let's see what happens. I'm going to connect the guitar in. That's there. So let's connect one. This feels really bad. Right there. So this is going into the Carcosa, out to the trimixer, because we need to sum the signal, and summing through these things is definitely a bad idea. Let's take the second lead. Let's send this to the evil twin. So this input goes to the input of the evil twin. Let's send it out to the trimixer. And let's take the trimixer to the output. Let's see if this actually works. We don't get horrible noise, so that's a good thing. Let's activate channel 1. That's indeed the Carcosa. Let's activate channel 2. And that's the evil twin. So you can actually use headphone splitters, or if you're smart, you're using like Y cables, which are more professional. Anyways. Seems like it's absolutely feasible to use this as a signal splitter as well. Just make sure you have something to sum the signals, or something like a parallel mixer or any kind of mixer box, because using headphone splitters as mixers, these things as mixers, is an overall bad idea. So don't do that. But if you want to split your signal using this, that's completely feasible. So that's a quick overview of the BoredBrain Patchulator. Very cool experimental tool. It's absolutely not for everyone. It's very specific. But if you have quite a few pedals laying around and you want to be able to switch them around without completely blowing the bank, and you're fine with having to do things manually, this is definitely a very feasible option. I hope you enjoyed this video. Once I have my pedal board built, which is completely dependent on when I get the cables, I will definitely make a bit of an update video to show you this thing in action a little bit more. But I just wanted to get this video out so you can see it and understand what it does before we get to that point. If there are any questions about the BoredBrain Patchulator, leave them down below. And for now, have a great day.